And yet Jesus came right through Samaria. And as you look at this, it's as if, isn't it, that he had to go there because he had to encounter this woman, because he knew how desperately she needed to have the message that he had to give her. Wow, Jesus did all of that just to encounter one person. Dear friends, he does that every day. He goes out of his way to encounter people like me and you who just need Jesus. And he does this for this woman, and she is amazed that he would even talk to her, and especially when he asked her for water. And she looks at him and she goes, "Who is this man that he would ask me, a Samaritan, to give him water?" And then he begins to talk about this water, living water, but he doesn't even have anything, nothing to even lift down in the well to pull up. So who is this man? And we feel her confusion because she's thrown off guard by a man who is talking to her and seems to genuinely look her not only in the eye, but in the heart. And so as they're having this discussion, we find Jesus beginning to ask questions of her. And when he mentions this living water, she immediately goes, "Oh gosh, wouldn't that be great if I had water where I wouldn't have to come here every day and I could just stay home. I wouldn't have to encounter anyone. I could just live in my own little world with my own little water. Wouldn't that be great?" But then Jesus says to her, "Well, go get your husband and then come back." "Go get my husband? I don't have a husband," she says. And he says, "You speak the truth. You speak the truth. You don't have a husband. Even the man you're with now is not your husband, but you have had 5 husbands. 5 husbands." And then we see this woman doing what many of us do when we realize that God genuinely does know us, that we can't hide anything from God, and we feel God pointing out to us our own lives. What we do is very similar to this woman, and we change the subject. We shift the focus. You see what she did? Here Jesus is talking about her life, and she says, "Let's talk about the best place to worship. Where is the true worshiping place?" And Jesus, he hears the question, but he also feels her need. And he says to her, "Well, now the Samaritans worship here and the Jews worship here, but the day will come." No, the day is now when everyone who wants to know God can come and worship in spirit and in truth. And in truth. And as he says these words to her, and as he looks at her, she begins to sense, maybe this is the Messiah. Is it possible that this very man that I am talking to is him? And then she says, "It must be," and she leaves. She goes to her village and she tells people there, "I've met someone who knows all there is to know about me. He must be the Messiah." And others come. And in their coming, they too experience Jesus, and they say these words, which is important for us to be reminded of. They say, "We have come to believe in Christ not because of what you said, but because of what we have experienced. The truth." Later on, we find Jesus saying, "I am the way, the truth, and the life." It may be possible as we consider later in just a few weeks, when we consider that Jesus is on trial and he goes before Pilate and he says to Pilate, "I am the King of kings." And Pilate said, "You are." And Jesus said, "I speak the truth." Is it possible that Jesus, when he was crucified, that his crime was that he spoke the truth? And perhaps for many of us, it's that part of Jesus speaking the truth that at times makes us uncomfortable, but it also allows us to see that Jesus speaks the truth and knows the truth. He knows the truth about me. He knows the truth about you, and he still loves us. And much like this woman who came to him, he loves us, and he longs for us to turn our lives in a direction that we too can walk the way of truth. Truth. Where is truth in our culture today? I ask myself that about every day when I hear another news report about the economic situation, about one more person who didn't tell the truth. And then even as you hear it, you wonder, well, now is this the truth? Where is the truth in this? Where is send a message perhaps far too easily sometimes to our children and our youth that when we're in this place and when someone like Scott is explaining to us about the truth, it seems clear, it seems black and white even, but when we move out into the world, that black and white becomes so gray, and we begin to wonder, where is the truth? Where is the truth? Jesus came to remind us, and some of us are blessed with people in our lives, those friends. Do you have a friend like I do, more than a couple actually, who speak the truth to you when you need to hear the truth, that don't just go along with you and just go, oh yeah, but at times get in your face and say, what are you thinking? Do you have friends like that? Do you need friends like that? Surely we all do. But you know, Jesus not only is a friend like that can get into our face and remind us what is true, Jesus also can take that truth and remind us about who we are and who we can be. And that truth can set us free if we will allow it to speak to us in the way that Jesus longs for it to. The first truth that we have today is the truth of it is I cannot hide my past from God. In truth, we cannot hide our past or our present from God. God knows us. God knows all there is about us. And the amazing thing is with all that God knows about us, knowing the truth, God still loves us. Jesus came to this woman not to judge her, but to show her that there was another way for her to live her life, and that there was a God who loved her in spite of who she was, because God knew who she could become. And that same God is here for us today. And the truth is, we can't hide from God. So we should be honest with God. We should be honest with ourselves about our lives so that we don't just fool ourselves into believing that this is the way life has to be. The truth of it is that Jesus knows all about me, all about you, and still loves us. That seems like a foundational truth, but at times we forget that. At times we forget that about ourselves, and isn't it true, friends, at times we forget that about others that we know and care for. Aren't there times in our lives when we think that we have a friend who has made one bad mistake after another bad mistake after another bad mistake, and we think to ourselves, well, that's just who they are. I'd like to think they're going to change, but they're not. Jesus says, why not? Why would you say that your friend cannot change? Because that is what, in truth, I offer to everyone, including you. Don't give up.